All right. Looks like you got it. All right. So good evening, everyone, and welcome to Regain Balance, Healing Hormones Naturally. I'm Dr. Sarah, and with me is Dr. Dae, and we'll get into introductions a little bit later. I kind of just wanted to start off with a story I have, and maybe this will resonate with some of you. So just bear with me. So right now, I am currently seeing a 46-year-old mom of two school-age kids, right? So for most of her life, she's been very active, she's been very fit, pretty capable and in control of her health, right? So she's made time of exercise, she ate well, she took her supplements, she went to the doctor. However, over the past years, she's noticed that some things have started to change, right? So she noticed that she started to gain weight. However, the weight gain was very specific, right? It started gaining weight in her abdomen. She almost felt like she was really bloated and heavy all the time. She also noticed that she had a lot of weight gain in her breast. She noticed she started to feel tense and more on edge, like she was just constantly in fight or flight mode, very irritated. More so than usual, one would think with their partner or their kids, right? Her joints started aching, seemingly at random. She would notice a lot of the tension was especially in her upper back and her jaw and her neck. And we've noticed that no matter how much she's adjusted her routine, her energy, and unfortunately her mood has plummeted, even though she's been doing and she continues to do all the right things, right? She's gone to her primary care doctor who did a standard blood work, blood panel, and told her everything looked normal. They suggested that she tried Ozempic, which some of you may have heard of right now. Unfortunately, this only made her feel worse, so she got off of that. She then went to her OBGYN, who suggested that because she is still having menstrual cycles, although her symptoms have also worsened there, that she get on birth control, and unfortunately that just heightened the symptoms she was trying to decrease. So essentially she got right back off birth control. So now she's super frustrated on top of feeling irritable, and she basically doesn't feel like herself. She doesn't recognize how she feels in her own body. And again, she's done everything she's supposed to be doing to be healthy. But something's not right. And again, that's what we're coming in this evening because we know this is not a one-off. As women, as we reach midlife, things come up, right? We have transitions in our life, and transitions are natural, but they should not be affecting us in such a way that it negatively or adversely affects our quality of life. So again, for those of you just hopping on, welcome. Thank you for joining us for Regaining Balance, Healing Hormones Naturally. With me today, I've got Dr. Damon Jones, and then I just want to do just a little brief introduction of Dr. Dae, as her patients like to call her, just so you know what a expert we've got on with us. Okay, so Dr. Dae believes that the key to finding happiness and fulfillment is choosing health as your #1 priority. When you do, you're able to show up more powerfully in every aspect of your life. Dr. Dae works with individuals struggling with weight gain, diabetes, thyroid problems, and menopause. These health issues are coming from hormonal imbalances, which we're going to talk about later, that have not been addressed or properly treated. Dr. Dae uses lifestyle medicine to reduce chronic disease. Her Replenish, Restore, Reclaim framework proves that diminished health and energy can be reversed with proactive choices, which is fantastic because a lot of us think we don't have choices. And it should also be mentioned once again what an expert Dr. Dae is. She is a naturopathic doctor in the Washington, D.C. area and treats patients nationally.
All right. Thanks, Sarah. So I welcome everyone. So excited to be here with Sarah. Sarah and I realized that we have a common way that we think about things. So Dr. Sarah and I decided that we would do this presentation because we want to help women understand how to live in the most healthy way using lifestyle as much as they possibly can. So I'm very excited to introduce Dr. Sarah. She follows the principles of traditional Chinese medicine with her treatments, making sure to look at the whole person in order to yield the best results for each patient in terms of their healing and overall well-being. According to TCM, which is traditional Chinese medicine, it's only when each of the various systems of the body are working in harmony or optimally can good health be achieved. Dr. Sarah works with women in midlife who are struggling with issues like weight gain, joint pains, insomnia, stress. They're unable to find answers, much less solutions, in the Western medicine model. She primarily uses acupuncture to reset hormonal imbalances that are often caused the cause of these symptoms, in addition to addressing functioning and other body systems, sometimes incorporating the use of cupping, dietary, and herbal remedies. So Dr. Sarah is based out of Northern Virginia. So welcome.
All right, guys. Well, thank you. So now that you've had a brief introduction of the two of us, so you feel a little bit more comfortable. We're not total charlatans, that sort of thing. So, guys, we're going to kind of dive into the meat of it now. And for that, I'm going to kind of kick it back to Dr. Dae, right? So I think one of the things we need to really talk about is what is perimenopause and the kind of that transition before you get to the total pause, right? Like how can that show up when it's out of balance?
Yeah, so one of the things that I think is really important for us to understand is women, when we think about perimenopause or menopause, sometimes women just think about their periods and they're like, okay, are my periods stopping? What's going on? If they are taking other medications, if they've had some surgery, sometimes it's hard to know whether they're what's going on with their period. So I want to just kind of broaden the whole idea of what perimenopause and menopause is. First of all, it's a time period that can last anywhere between 4 and 11 years, where our estrogen levels and progesterone levels start to decline. And when they start to decline, we get all kinds of other symptoms that can show up for us as a result of that. So if you don't learn anything else today, I want you to know that if you live long enough, and for most women, it's in their early to mid 40s is when this transition starts. And it will transition for, again, between 4 and 7 years, and up to 11 years if you're a woman of color. It can be longer. So that's a long time to be dealing with symptoms, and you don't have to suffer through that entire period of time. And it can be musculoskeletal, which is why Dr. Sarah's like, she talks about joint pains. People can have joint pains, frozen shoulder. People can have hot flashes, night sweats, insomnia. You can have in her story, she talked about irritability, yelling at their family members, maybe your people that you're working with, your coworkers, other things. You might be really short-tempered about things. So all of these are examples of things that can happen during that perimenopausal or menopausal transition. And so today we're going to talk about some ways that we can help reduce those symptoms.
All right. So thank you. So yeah, as Dr. Dae said, we're going to talk about the different symptoms that there are, how each of our types of modalities can help address that. And then Dr. Dae is going to talk about some certain programs and modules she has that it's going to give us even more data so we can really do a deep dive and when it comes to taking care of your health and figuring out what's going on. So with that said, so what I do, right, as an acupuncturist. So what I love about acupuncture is, again, it's a subset of traditional Chinese medicine. So it's a holistic model, right? We're not just looking at one organ system. We're not just looking at a symptom. We're looking at your whole body. So we like to see how your health has been in the past, as well as what's showing up right now. Because if we're able to get the whole picture, we can find what we call the pattern of disharmony. And so the pattern of disharmony, you can think about that as the root cause of disease, or what is causing the symptoms that you're experiencing. So for example, if someone in perimenopause comes to me and she's like, okay, I've got this unexplained weight gain, right? That's not going away even with diet and exercise. I've also noticed that I've got bloating. I'm a little bit more foggy headed, that sort of thing. I'm going to look at her past health history. I'm going to take those current symptoms and I'm going to do other things. I'm going to feel her pulses. I'm going to look at her tongue, things that are a little different, right, for those who are used to Western medicine. But that's going to let me know what her potential pattern of disharmony, what the root cause is. And in acupuncture, I'm going to then use points that help to address that root cause of disharmony to help resolve the symptoms and resolve the problem and help her transition smoothly through menopause and after menopause. And so that's really why I like acupuncture, is because we're not just addressing or suppressing the symptoms, we're resolving them.
I
And
love it.
again, yeah, so, and then Dr. Dae, if you want to talk a little bit about how you utilize your medicine.
Yeah, so I didn't want to cut you off. I just was so
Yeah.
excited that you said it that I just wanted to share. One of the reasons why Dr. Sarah and I decided that we were going to work together to try to help women heal is because we both look at the idea of treating the underlying cause of the problem. And I'm going to say this, and some people may not think that this is popular, but the current medical model is broken because what they really focus on is they focus on, okay, here's your symptom, and then here's a medication. Here's your symptom, here's a procedure. And the difference of the way that we approach working with people is that we look at, well, what if you used to be able to eat without gaining weight, if you used to be able to sleep through the night, like those, that was when your body was in harmony, like Dr. Ciara was talking about. And now your body is out of harmony. And it may be out of harmony because your hormones are imbalanced, not just the estrogen and progesterone, but are there adrenal issues, which are your stress hormones? Are there insulin issues, which help you with your blood sugar alignment? Are there thyroid issues, which have to do with your metabolism? So the idea is that these hormonal imbalances are causing you to not feel like yourself. Because I think when we've talked about this before, correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Sarah, that one of the things that we hear women say, particularly, it could be as early as late 30s, but definitely into their mid 40s. I don't feel like myself anymore. I don't understand what's going on. Nothing's working, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and I think that's kind of that frustration. I think that's kind of, I was telling Dr. Day earlier, that's what led me to actually reach out to her in the first place, because as a woman of a certain age, right, I start to notice things that are showing up that I'm not used to, maybe sticking around, maybe not bouncing back. And again, I've gone to my primary care doctor, and it's like, well, we can test for this or that, but there's really not much else we can do. And it's like, well, I need answers, right? There's got to be something we can do. And I think both of us believe that there are actually a lot of things we can do.
Absolutely. And so that's why we're really glad that you all are here, because one of the things that we are both talking about that naturopathic medicine does and traditional Chinese medicine and acupuncture can do is let's tell you what the imbalance is. Let's figure out what that is. And that there's another thing that Dr. Sarah and I talked about earlier. So I don't want to upset anyone, but I'm going to just tell you the truth. When we go through that perimenopausal change, right, in our late 30s, maybe mid 40s, definitely by the end of our late 40s, there's no test that we can test you to see, are you in perimenopause? Because your hormones are changing so much that you could be fine for like a week or two or a month or two, and then all of a sudden you're not feeling fine and you're feeling bloated and you're having a headache and your shoulder is frozen, and so that switches a lot during these years that you're going through that transition. So taking a test to see what your estrogen or progesterone levels is not going to solve your problem and your frustration of what's going on. Luckily, there are other hormones we can also test and check to help resolve some issues or problems, but there's no blood test for perimenopause. And so I just want to let you guys know that, because I think it's very frustrating if you think that there should be a test and there isn't. But this is why we look at the underlying cause of how are you feeling this way? What's going on for you? How do we come up with lifestyle issues to support you in terms of feeling better? So,
No, I like what Dr. Day, what you're saying. And she's just so you all know, like she said, there's no one test. And again, when you're in perimenopause, a lot of you are still having your menstrual cycle, right? Hence perimenopause or just menopause. So it's hard. And I think a lot of people have this preconception that we just look at the estrogen, we just look at testosterone, progesterone, and that should give us an idea of what's good, what's bad, right? What needs to be fixed. What she was kind of saying is that it fluctuates so much, and there's so many other kind of chemicals and hormones that we need to look at that could really be the culprits in what's going on. And what she will get to is that, guess what, guys, we can actually test for that to then have solutions for the symptoms that are kind of I'm not going to say ruining your life, but making it a little bit more difficult than it needs to be, right? Because again, these transitions are natural. In Chinese medicine, we say there are cycles of 7 and 8. Women go through cycles of 7, meaning we shift and change our hormones more often than men. I know, I can go on a tangent about that, but here we are as women. So with that said, it's really important to know that, yeah, there's just not one standard test, but there are tests that can look at different hormones. And our hope is that one of those things is going to show us, okay, well, what is it that's off? Maybe that's too high, that's too low, but that's maybe what we call dysregulated. And if we can find that, we can then give you solutions, whether we do lifestyle recommendations and nutrition or whether we do acupuncture, right? So again, we may have an idea, but the more information we're able to gather, the more effective, the more our treatments, the more I'm able to tweak it, as well as Dr. Dae.
Yeah, and I love that because it goes into part of our conversation and why we wanted to do this is because you can't test for estrogen and progesterone specifically, but if you're going through this hormonal time frame, most women by the time they're in their 40s in the United States, we are so busy taking care of everyone else that we put ourselves last. We put our health last, where we might be taking care of kids, we may be taking care of parents, we might be in a relationship with a significant other, we may be holding it down at church or in one of our social organizations. And so there's research that shows that women are exhausted by the time they're in their 40s. About 90% of women are exhausted, and they're so exhausted that there's actually a term that's being coined called adrenal fatigue. So adrenals are your stress hormones. They're produced in your adrenal glands. And you're so exhausted that a lot of these symptoms of feeling tired, the brain fog, the can't get off the couch, the isolation, the wanting to blow up, all the stories that of some of the symptoms that Dr. Sarah started out in her first story that she was sharing, these could be happening. And if they're happening to you, that even though we're not looking at estrogen and progesterone only, we can look at doing a panel that looks at your adrenal glands, looks at your insulin levels, some of the weight gain that you may be experiencing around the midsection, the muffin top kind of thing, the thyroid where metabolism is really slow. So maybe you're not losing weight the way that you expected to, and you notice your hair, your skin, like those things are kind of changing. So there are tests that we can do. And what it will tell us is, do you have a hormonal imbalance? Do you have a nutritional deficiency? If you have those types of things, those are ways that we can support you through what you're eating, how you manage your energy, what kind of acupuncture or other traditional Chinese medicine process that Dr. Sierra wants to take you through. And what kind of exercise is the best exercise for you? These are what is meant by lifestyle changes and lifestyle medicine. And those tests then give not just me, because Dr. Sarah, she knows how to read those tests as well. She's just so busy in her practice that she doesn't have time to do that in addition to all of the other caretaking she's giving to each and every one of her patients. So we thought it would be a great idea to come on and say, hey, that if you are interested in talking to either one of us, and if this sounds like the right approach, then I can help support the work that she's doing by running those tests, to getting those answers. If you're one of her patients, sharing that information with Dr. Sarah. So in addition to the tools that she's already using, she'll have additional information to help and support you. And if you are, some people here may not be in the DC area even. I have some people that I know are outside of that area. We can do the testing for you and get the answers in terms of what's going on with your adrenals. And then I can support you through nutrition. I can support you through supplements if that's the right thing, and helping you with some of those lifestyles as well. So I wanted to make sure that I gave you hope, because I didn't want to snatch it away. I saw a couple people's face when I was like, there's no testing while you're in perimenopause. So sorry, I didn't mean to scare you all. But certainly are options of how to treat the underlying cause that's happening to you and help reduce your symptoms so that you can move through this process with grace and support.
Absolutely. And I guess just to kind of clarify what Dr. Day is saying is someone like her, naturopathic doctor, she can order these tests for you, right? That usually a primary care doctor, maybe even an endocrinologist or your OBGYN will not do, right? Just because they're not the typical or the standard testing. So she, based on your signs and symptoms, when you come to her, your complaints, she'll know what to order. And again, like I said, it's not just the sex hormones that are at play or may be at play, right? We have things like cortisol, insulin, the thyroid, leptin, even, right? The adrenal cortex, some things she was referring to earlier with adrenal fatigue. It's a real thing. I see it in my practice a lot, actually. Been there myself too. Um, but again, so she's the one, she can order these tests for you, and she is the expert at analyzing the result of the tests, right? So
Yeah.
she's going to be like, the reason you have this fatigue is because, let's say your adrenal cortex is dysregulated, right? And your cortisol levels, you might think they're high because of your chronic stress, but they have plummeted by the time you come to see her, right? And so we think that we could be really good in terms of a collaboration for your care is because, yes, I'm looking for patterns of disharmony. But when someone comes to me with, say, unexplained weight gain, there can be at least one, two, three, four, five different reasons for that unexplained weight gain when I see their tongue, when I take their pulses, right? So if I know, oh, okay, it's insulin, great, right? I'm going to go to what's called the stomach and the spleen channels in Chinese medicine. But if it's the cortisol, I'm going to be like, oh, okay, the kidneys and their water and metabolism are what's not functioning well. So I can then tweak my acupuncture treatment to then help your body better utilize the energy you have to make sure your different systems are functioning better. So again, that's where acupuncture comes in. We
Yeah.
see your cortisol, your adrenals, they need a little bit of help. The needles are going to stimulate your body for natural healing. Be like, okay, we need a little bit more support here. We maybe need to manage or decrease support there. And so that's why I really like collaborating with Dr. Day. And she's basically, I came to her, I was like, look, I have these patients. We're doing our best. We're throwing like all of the books at it, and we're not seeing much, budging. Yeah, people are feeling relaxed, and that's fantastic. A little bit more energy, but there's still something off, and I can't see it, right? Unfortunately, I don't have X-ray vision. The blood work that some of my patients give me, it's not enough. Again, it's standard. It does not show anything, even though we know there's something going on. She's kind of the key to unlocking the answers, right? Then I can then take and put into practice.
Yeah, I love the way that you said that because, one of the things when I said earlier that the healthcare system is broken, it's not. I am dealing with some family members that need help, so I can see it up close and personal how it can be very frustrating when you don't get the answers that you need. But one of the challenges and one of the reasons why I decided to step outside of that system and be a naturopathic doctor instead of a conventional doctor is because it's not that doctors don't want to help you. It's really more that insurance and insurance companies, they only do testing for medications. They don't do testing to see the underlying cause of the problem. They don't do testing to see if you have nutrient deficiencies. Those things often aren't covered by insurance. So this is why one of the things that I know people are frustrated with, and I'm frustrated too, because should they cover it? Absolutely. But do they cover it? Oftentimes they don't. So this is really a situation where we want to support you. We don't want you to feel frustrated. We want to give you answers that you've been looking for. So oftentimes when people are so frustrated and they're like, I just want to get an answer, it's worth it to just take that extra time and work with us. And so one of the questions that someone put in the chat, they are asking, okay, well, how much are these tests? Well, what I would say before we just go, good question, first of all, but the first thing that I would like to, offer and recommend to you is a couple things. If you are interested in coming to see one of us, that you have a conversation with us before you come into the office. Like, call the office, you can call me, you can talk to me for 15 minutes. I can start to at least have an understanding about what your symptoms are, because we want to make sure it's a good fit for you in order to make sure that you're doing the right kind of tests and the right type of support. So I definitely want to make sure that you know that. And one of the things I will do is I will give you a link that you can use to like hop onto the calendar. The other thing that I would say that's really helpful for you, and we'll put in some of the chats, is just to do, there's an adrenal fatigue questionnaire,
Mhm.
right? So if the things that we're talking about kind of sound like you, but you're not really sure, I want to make sure that you have a free resource that supports you, that you can kind of check in. And if you're like, oh yeah, those, I'm checking a lot of those boxes, then that might be an encouragement to say, yeah, maybe I do need to just take 15 minutes out of my schedule, have a free conversation with Dr. Dae to see if these are the right tests to be done. So I want to make sure that you know that we're always here to
Yeah.
support you. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I was going to say the same thing too, as Dr. Day also, for those of you who have hopped on our Zoom call, right? This portion, will get that free link. And again, that way you can be like, check, check, check. So it really is a confirmation that, you're a good fit, but also, okay, these are symptoms, these are real, right? This is some kind of condition that's going on. But both of us are here for like a free 15-minute consultation just to A, make sure you're right fit, and B, what we think would be the next best steps of care for you,
Yeah.
right? Whether we think it's okay, maybe it really is just like the sex hormones. Maybe it is something that, a different type of doctor or specialist actually would be better suited. Or maybe it is something that, again, may be better treated outside of the typical Western model.
Yeah, so one of the things I really am glad that everyone came on, because there are a couple of things that Dr. Sarah and I wanted to make sure that you understand and you get while we're have you captive audience. We want to thank you for taking time to think about your health, because you could be doing something else. Everyone is super busy. So the fact that you took time today and that you were like, I'm curious about my health and I want to find out more, we want to make sure that you get as much as you can out of this. So if you do have questions, I forgot to say this in the very beginning, please feel free to put them in the chat so that we can answer your questions. So I want to give you guys a couple minutes to do that. Second, I want you to know that what we were talking about is if you're having symptoms and you're not feeling like yourself. And again, the story that Dr. Sarah told about one of her patients, some of the symptoms that we've mentioned, if you're experiencing those, I think the easiest way to kind of think about it is things that you used to do. Dr. Sarah said this, that used to work, and now everything that you're trying is not working anymore. Then you probably are in that perimenopausal or menopausal transition, because even after you stop having your period, your hormones are still settling in for another year or two. This is where having Dr. Sarah support you. I love acupuncture. My body responds to it so well. So if you've never had the experience of working with a traditional Chinese medicine doctor, if you never had acupuncture or you're nervous, it's not like those big needles that they shove into your arm. It's a very supportive experience for you. So if you are curious, please take Dr. Sarah up and having a conversation with her. If you are feeling like, oh gosh, if I just ate better, if I just exercise, well, hormonal imbalances will prevent you, no matter how good your diet is, no matter how much exercise you do, how many times you work with a personal trainer. I mean, how many times have you had the experience of either you yourself or hearing someone else saying, God, I've been working for the personal trainer for 6 months and my weight hasn't changed at all, right? That's because you have an underlying cause. That's what we want you to get from this conversation that is affecting you that you can't see. And it's not that you're failing and you don't have willpower and you're not eating the right thing and you're not working out enough. It's that you have a hormonal imbalance that needs to be addressed. And because insurance doesn't cover it, it doesn't mean that you should suffer. What it means is we're asking you to think outside of the box. right? If you are going on vacation, people spend, tens of thousands of dollars to go to Disneyland. You're not going to spend tens of thousands of dollars with us, but you still would have to make a personal investment to then figure out, what do I need? Like, is it worth it to you? And I really want to just kind of make sure that I say this before we answer any other questions for you, which is sometimes the investment is worth it, right? Sometimes the investment is saying a couple $100 is going to make all the difference between feeling well and not feeling well. And thinking outside of that insurance should cover it, and making the decision that I'm tired of feeling tired. I'm tired of yelling at people. I'm tired of being exhausted. I'm tired of not sleeping. If you're feeling that way, because people come to us all the time, and then they're just like, thank you so much. I didn't know I could feel better. I've started to forget what it felt like to feel good, right? We don't want you to continue to feel that way. We want you to feel better. And so we're, offering you this opportunity to have a conversation with Dr. Sarah, have a conversation with me, just so you can get a different perspective and get help so that you can feel better.
And I think that's something too, guys. I think that's always the question is how how much do you think your quality of life is being affected, right?
Great
If
question.
it's something that it's just like a little bit of a nuisance, fine, right? We get it. We understand that some things are, like Dr. Day was saying, may be out of pocket, right? But again, that's because a lot of things that are covered by insurance. This could be a whole other webinar, right? This could be a webinar series. When it comes to what doctors routinely test for, they can only test for what insurance says they can test for, right? They are dictated by our commercial and private insurance plans. And again, those plans are going to be like, well, what will make them money versus what will not cost them so much money either. We're saying that if you feel like your life is being adversely affected, again, you feel like, okay, this transition in my life is not going as smoothly as it should go, which again, when you're going through perimenopause and even menopause, your life should not be like so horrendous that you're looking for solutions, right? If you're looking for solutions, that's not healthy, right? Everyone's like, oh my gosh, perimenopause, menopause, there's all these cartoons, all these memes, gifs, right? About hot flashes, people like finding their moms in the fridge. That's kind of the transition out of harmony, right? So basically is when things are that extreme, we know there's like an underlying imbalance. So you have an imbalance. We need to figure out what that imbalance is in order to solve the issue. So all of your symptoms go away and you feel like yourself again. And then the next transitions you have, they're healthy, they're more stable. And I was kind of losing my train of thought there. Again, foggy brain, my apologies. Just so you know, I stick myself with needles almost every other night. Okay, I do supplements, right? Um, right, I get it. I get it. But I do want to tell you again, you have options. You're not crazy. So with that said, that was kind of my little point that I wanted to make sure that I made. So
Yeah.
going back, I guess we have a couple of questions if we want to get into the nitty-gritty a little bit
Yeah,
more.
we can do
Okay.
that. And while she's pulling up the questions, I just want to give you some hope. So I want to just give you an example of a woman that I work with, that she was having hot flashes multiple times a day, and she wanted to find a solution, but she didn't know exactly what to do. So when she came into the office, we talked about how can I help you? And she decided that she was going to make some changes in her what she was eating. She was going to make some changes for a few months and see how it worked. In 2 months, all of her hot flashes went away. And not only that, but in 6 month period of time, she lost about 40 pounds. She decided she had to send me a picture because she's like, Dr. Day, you won't even recognize me from where we started to where I ended up. She lost 40 pounds. Her husband, who wasn't even on the plan, but was working with her on her plan, lost 80 pounds. So this is where the changes that happen around lifestyle not only just affect you, but can affect your family. They went on a cruise. They paid an extra $100 to get that healthy foods. They were on the cruise for 7 days. She didn't gain any weight. She had a beautiful time. She stopped in all these different ports. So there's a way to have a healthy life, have a fun life, enjoy your life. There are ways that you can do that. You don't have to just suffer through to the other side. And Dr. Sarah and I, at the end of the day, what we're doing is just offering you that opportunity. And so,
And yeah. And then, sorry, I also just want to say real quickly for any of my patients who may be here, anyone referred by my patients, Dr. Dae, I asked her to kind of come up with kind of, I don't know if you call them like your protocols or your modules.
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Basically, kind of come up with something. So, and if anyone is interested, whether you're my patient or somebody else, you could go, you could do the consultation. You're like, okay, this is something that I do need to look more into. She can do this for you. And then you can, stay with that and then come back to me. Or I'm happy to also, if you want to just ask me, maybe there's an acupuncturist where you are and you want to try acupuncture, I'm happy to also refer you to someone because I believe in it so much. Or, and I think you should do this, then you're like, hey, Dr. Dae, you've done so much for me. And I think there could be some other things going on, or I really would like, I just need someone to hold my hand essentially when it comes to diet and support. She can do that as well and go more in depth, right? She's just not simply doing a couple of tests, right? It's more than that.
Absolutely. So I think one of the things that Dr. Sarah and I want to make sure that you know is that when we work with you, we want to support you through the process. And what I found to be a very popular way of really getting the support that you need is I don't just do like one consultation. If you decide that you want to do a free consultation, no problem. And if you're like, no, I need a little bit more help, then we talk about setting up a series, a program that's specific and individualized to you. And the reason why we do that is so that you have time to ask all the questions that you need, that you have time to learn what you need. You have time to start implementing some of the lifestyle. And if you have questions during that process, we help and support you. So it's really geared towards the work that I do is not, okay, here's your labs, good luck. But let's figure out what you need to do around exercise. What do you need to do around food? What do you need to do around sleep? How do you need to manage your stress? Right. So it's a entire process that really takes you to the place where you have a plan and you're supported. And I do that in the programs that I work with people. And with Dr. Sarah, she also doesn't just like, okay, bye. Like she'll work with you over a period of time to help you. So it again goes back to this idea of if you're not feeling well, it took you a while to get into disharmony. It's going to take you a little bit of time to get out of disharmony. And we want to support you during that process. So
Yeah.
what we'll
Yeah.
do
And I was
is,
just gonna say real quick, and obviously the more information you have, the quicker we can get you out of that disharmony. So that again, that's why I really like working or collaborating with Dr. Day because I was like, sometimes more data is great. I always think more data, the better, right? So we can really pinpoint what's going on.
so I just put a link in the chat. If you would like to set up a free 15-minute call. Dr. Sarah, someone is asking where you're located. So I want to make sure that you can answer that so people will know how to reach you. And if you could also put your information, phone number, link in.
Absolutely. So to anyone who's here, I am in the Northern Virginia area. I'm in McLean, Virginia. It's right by Tyson's. But again, you can reach out to me too if you are outside of that area, or even if you're in Virginia, but somewhere that traffic makes inaccessible to you. I am happy to refer you to someone I have best confidence in, and I will give my website and phone number. With that said, okay, again, some questions. I know people, we kind of touched on this, but maybe to make it a little bit more clear, when it comes to kind of insurance, out of pocket, that sort of thing, and why it is the way it is, right?
Yeah, so the answer to the question is, in my practice, if you have flexible spending and health savings, those are easy solutions. If not, then you're choosing to make an investment in yourself and your health. If you want, because I don't know every person's insurance plan. So I think the easy answer is I don't use insurance, and that those two are the easiest options. But when we talk on the phone, we can even see if this is a good fit. Now, I know someone, oh, drop the link for the adrenal. Yes,
Mhm.
I will drop the link. Thank you so much for that. Faith has her hand up. So I don't know how that works. I don't know if there's a question that she has or she's put it in the chat already. So,
I don't think so.
Hi
But Faith,
there. Yes, I had a question.
yes, ma'am.
Hi, and nice to meet you, Dr. Day. This has been super educational. I'm wondering how much family history plays into your perimenopausal and menopausal journey. I recently became aware that I have a family history of early, I use air quotes early because I don't really know exactly what that means, but I guess earlier than normal, perimenopause and menopause. So, I'm just here to get more education and thank you. I've gotten a lot of my questions answered, but I'm wondering how much should I kind of pay attention to that family history or be on edge about it?
so never be on edge because education can always help you figure out how to move forward. So I don't want you to feel like anxious around it. So family history can help you to understand when you can expect to go through particular changes. But the other thing that you want to think about is there's a branch of medicine called epigenetics. And what epigenetics, the research has shown is that while you have the same genes as someone else, your environment is what turns them on or turns them off. So about 90 to 95% of the environment, what you eat, how stressed you are, how much sleep you get, how much you move, the way that you live in the world is what turns on those things that create that disharmony. So your family history is probably giving you some information about when to start looking out for, am I having some changes or things going on that I'm not aware of, that I don't know how to handle? Like, do I feel differently? Is my body changing? So your family history certainly can do that around this menopausal change. And then how stressed are you? How well are you eating? You know, are you getting enough sleep? Because a lot of times we think that sleep's not important. Like, who's heard, I'll sleep when I'm dead? You know, like that's a terrible thing. And I've heard people say that all the time, right? So those things also play the role. And that's where looking at some of the additional testing that I talked about can be really helpful to see, is that what's happening to you? Are you having those hormonal imbalances? And how do we navigate those?
Mhm.
Because your family history has already told you, hey, I should be looking at this in my early 40s. Hey, I should start thinking about this in my late 30s, right? So maybe that's what your history is telling you.
Yeah, I would like to say like that means like, yeah, you have a predisposition to it, like, right? Just like for any other condition, heart disease, diabetes, those sorts of things for sure. But, and I'm going to go from case studies, right? So from the patients I've seen, lifestyle. For those of you in the DC area, you'll appreciate that. I mean, stress is probably the biggest contributor. So basically, we have mental, physical stress, right? We have two different types. The more stressed you are, the more fast paced your life seems to be. Usually, we're going to have an earlier onset of perimenopause, menopause, and the more tumultuous it can be, just because all of our hormones have been kind of thrown into disarray, or basically they've all been heightened, right? They've all been used, and it's like you're in a car, you've put the pedal to the metal, you've maxed out your tank of gas, and you're still driving, but now you're on empty and your engine's starting to overheat, and you're like, how am I having an overheating engine? Oh, but when I have nothing left. Well, it's because you have nothing left, right? So these are the things you really need to be cognizant of. Is like, well, what does your lifestyle look like, right? And that's why these things we recommend are so important to implement to get you to health, not only through perimenopause and menopause, but for other kind of like chronic or lifelong conditions too, to kind of avoid those.
Yeah, that was beautiful. That was a good analogy. That
Well,
was
thank you, but it's coming, unfortunately, it's coming really handy these past few weeks. I don't know why. I mean, it's not like it's been a stressful few months, guys, huh? So, okay, I know. It's just sometimes you got to laugh at things. Um, But basically, so yeah, I think that was a great question, Faith. I think again, it could let you know predisposition, maybe when to start looking at things, but it can also give you a good idea of the importance of doing other things as well. And also just FYI, when Dr. Day was like, you'll sleep when you're dead. I'm not saying I don't hate anything, but I dislike it when people say, oh, I'll catch up on sleep on the weekend. Ladies, please do not do that. You cannot catch up on sleep. So we can undo some of the damage that's done, but again, we still got to make sure our sleep routines are good because again, that's also going to help you through the transition. And at the same time, obviously, that's one of the things we would also potentially be working on as well, right? Because I think insomnia, or usually I think trouble staying asleep and waking up around the same time. That's usually like the biggest complaint I get. I'm like, let me guess, maybe 2, 3, up to 4 a.m. Is that when you're waking up? Yeah. Uh-huh. Okay. Yep.
And
I
so
can tell you that's stress and cortisol.
it definitely, that is a whole nother webinar that we can probably do at another time. But so because stress, I think, is
Yeah.
the root cause of so many things, because what Dr. Sarah and I want you again to understand is when you talk about stress, what happens is your body releases hormones. Whenever you're stressed, your body's releasing hormones. And it goes back to what we've been talking about this entire time, which is you get hormonal imbalances when your lifestyle is in a state of disharmony. So this is why we're really glad that you took some time to spend with us today. We're super excited about it. I want to thank you so much for spending time. If you have additional questions, I will make sure that my assistant, for anyone who was able to join us on Zoom, I'll have her send out an email tomorrow that has the information for myself and for Dr. Sarah, just so you guys have that. In case you didn't catch the links, we'll make sure that you get that tomorrow. If you have any additional questions, we're both open to calling us and getting some more information. We're happy to do that for you.
Yeah. And again, thank you so much for taking the time to join us this evening. I hope that kind of started to give you some ideas about what you think may be good for you. And again, just remember, you're not crazy. All these symptoms are related. We're just trying to figure out what is the root cause of these symptoms so that we can best help you. And again, Dr. Day, you will hear from her with our contact information. And we really are here to take your questions, to spend some time with you as needed, if that's something you want. Anyway, I guess any other closing questions? If not, again, just shoot us an email. Dr. Day, anything else you'd like to say?
Now, I just want to shout out one of my friends who came on. Hey, Becky. So there's some other people.
We appreciate you all equally.
Yes, but I haven't seen her in years, so I apologize. I'm so excited. Every single one of you that came on is a gift, but my heart is with Becky. So I just wanted to just acknowledge her because we've been friends for over 20 years, and I was excited to see her.
30.
30. Oh, so, so yes.
Good to see you.
Yes, good to see you. Good to see all of you. Thank you so much for your time tonight. We look forward to talking to you in the near future. It has been our pleasure to be with you tonight. And if you have questions, if you have other topics that you'd like us to do, please let us know. If we get people asking us to do certain things, it will help us to decide whether to what's the next thing that we should talk about together.
All right. Thank you guys so much.
I'm going to try to stop the screen share. Yeah. Here we go.
All right.